Kicking off the next set of prelims, we got Aspen Ladd and Raquel Pennington now. We know this should have been Aspen Ladd versus Irene Aldana, which would have been a pretty competitive back and forth. In this fight, when you look at Raquel Pennington's 3-fight win streak and the types of fighters that she's beating and her overall record, right? So let's talk about that for a second. 3-0, Marion Renault, Pansakanzad, and Macy Chasen. So you look at those 3 fights, not only is it a nice mix of up-and-coming talent and previous, legend-type talent, she's been able to put it all together. And you look at the way that she's becoming a better athlete, taking things a lot more seriously. And then look at her historic career, right? The only people that she's really losing to are just elite-level strikers that might do things a little bit quicker, a little bit more creative than she does, right? Holly Holm twice, Amanda Nunes, Jermaine Durandamy, just all elites in that recent period. And so when you look at Aspen Ladd, what are some of the things we take away? I think people expected a lot from her. I don't think she's fought as often as people would have liked. And then you talk about the slow starts, right? For me, the Yana Kunitskaya fight stands out a lot because you look at that fight, you look from a game plan perspective, and just you can tell from the coach's reaction. I think that was the fight where her corner work was just really, really popular. I'm going to say that. I think people remember that going into the third round quite well. He did a great job. Questionable at some points, but the big thing for me is Aspen Ladd seems to be the type of fighter that loses herself mentally in the first beginning parts of the fight. Then you see her turn up. 2 great examples are the Yana Kunitskaya fight in that third round and then the last round of the Norma Dumont fight. That fight, for it to be 5 rounds, was one of those things where you just thought, when are we going to see someone wake up? Norma basically took the 3 rounds, and then the next 2 were very competitive. I think that Norma actually ended up still taking the 4th round to 2 judges, and then that last round was unanimously all to Ladd. A lot of clinch work, a lot of damage being done in that distance, and the elbows, you started seeing some blood come down. It's just, you see her be more technical, more aggressive, use her strength. And that's the part that I'm more curious about in this fight, because if this fight just stays standing for 3 rounds, I can see Rocky having very good success on the feet. I think she's creative. I think she's confident. I think she puts the pressure on. And she's got those sneaky little submissions, when fighters go for takedowns or get in too close, like that Macy Chasen finish. I think that's the area where Aspen Ladd's experience, it's like she can dominate the fighters that she matches up very well against. The Tanya Evinger fight comes to mind. This is an example of where she needs a proper game plan and she's to execute it from start to finish. I think that there's been examples of where she might be arguably the better fighter and then just comes alive and does her thing later in the fight. I don't think that's an option here. I think that if she were to give away, say, the first round to the first round and a half to 2 to try and get a finish in the third, she's going to be eating a lot of damage. I think Rocky has good volume. I think she picks her shots well. And the thing is that no matter where she is in terms of distance, she's really good at gauging it. My favorite part of that Macy Chasen fight is for the type of fighter that Macy is and the way she likes to be in and out, quick strikes, trying to look for takedowns, do some ground and pound. She was able to get her timing and distance down almost within a minute. It was elite, because you look at the way Chasen throws kicks, it didn't bother Rocky even in the slightest. She was able to duck those pretty quickly in that fight, and that's the thing, right? Your most powerful strikes are going to be earlier in the fight, and you kind of saw Rocky deal with Macy's best, and then kind of set herself up well for that second round and moving forward. So that's where I just think Rocky has an edge here. I think that when you think about how well she fights over the course of 3 rounds, what she does better than Ladd, and then what she might have to look out for. And to me, it's a lot of the clinch work. It's the strength. I think one of Aspen's most underrated feats is her strength. I think that she's good. She's got good center of gravity. She's able to turn fighters around in that clinch pretty easily. I mean, Norma was not able to kind of turn her back around in that turn her back. Anyway, music plays in my head 24/7. The turnaround there, I just felt like Aspen was dominating in that 5th round. And when I watch her fight, you always have those questions, right? Like, where was that in the early parts of the fight? And that's where, if you do this, or you follow this sport as long as I have, you don't really have that couch potato outlook on it. Like, oh my God, I couldn't believe. No, it's not that. It's more like you just expect a fighter of that caliber to kind of showcase that same skill level when she has more energy, when she has the ability to effectively create a game plan from round 1 to round 3 or 5. And I think that's where you're seeing Ladd really struggle, even against, some of the mid-tier talent in the UFC. So for me, I think I'm really leaning towards Rocky. I think a line of about minus 130 makes sense here in terms of guessing the line. It's just, man, you look at the quality of opponent from Rocky, you look at the tape, it's just she's going to be doing a lot of things well. And I think it's going to come down to Ladd having to wake up a little bit earlier in the fight, find some of those bigger power shots that she likes to throw, and then mix it up. I think with Rocky, right now, the striking is looking, some of the best we've seen from her. And that's where if Ladd's not getting, where she needs the fight to go in the beginning, you need to pick it up quicker. And I think that's what we need to see from Ladd to make this a more competitive fight. But I'm going with Rocky as a minus 130. I just think that there's so many things going well for her right now, both recency bias-wise with the 3-0 streak, but then also just what she's put together as a fighter over the course of her career. It'd just be really hard to avoid that. And looking at this line, guys, we said minus 130, and look at this. It opened at minus 145, so we were pretty close to the opening line, but you guys are moving this line quickly. Some places already have Rocky up to a minus 200, which takes Ladd as a plus 125 opening dog to all the way as high as plus 155 now. So we can see why this fight is moving in this direction. I'm actually a fan of Rocky in this fight, unless we see something drastically different from Ladd, which is the reason, odds and fight outcomes can be the way they are. She does have to pick it up and be that consistent fighter for 3 rounds, and if we see that, she could definitely take the win here. But Rocky, from a consistency perspective, confidence perspective, it just seems like her career right now is really starting to take off in that 33 to 35 range where, we're starting to see people actually hit their prime. So best of luck to both ladies. I think Ladd, we need to see her be more active over the course of the next couple years, but Rocky's looking like the real deal all of a sudden at 33 years old, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be very competitive.